Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Every year at this time, I get the folks at Southeast Termite to come by my house, treat my home for the fall invaders. That would be the ladybugs. That's what those things always get in my house. And they're really sweet and cute until you get 5,000 of the little ones come spring. So I want them dead in the fall, and these guys take care of it. Stink bugs as well, if you get those, or box elder beetles are bad around here. It works. I'm telling you, the fall invader treatment works. Southeast Termite and Pest Control. I no longer have a home filled with ladybugs every spring. Do it for yourself. Give them a call. All right. We've been talking about what Tennessee can do to work around their offensive line, and we basically came up with nothing. So I'm going to rephrase the question. Bob, Mike, David, Josh, what would you try? Is there something you would try? Now, I will also preface this by saying Jeremy Pruitt came out this week and said the problem is not play calling. The problem is not scheme. The problem is a lack of consistent execution, which might tweak your answer, because if you can't consistently execute what you've worked on since the spring,
right,
can you be trusted to consistently execute something new that they break out on you in an open day? But I ask you, what would you try? Is there anything you would try to do differently with this offense in the back half of the season?
Well, I think if you look at Tennessee's second touchdown in the Georgia game, when Ty Chandler takes a swing pass 35 yards to the end zone, I don't know that they executed perfectly. There were three defenders nipping at his heels the moment he caught the football, but he was just a dynamic playmaker and was able to take it to the house because he's just sort of got a game-changing level of speed. So I think he maybe tried to just get the ball in his hands in space a little bit. I mean, that's simple, but it worked against Georgia.
I wouldn't argue if it were me and I was the UT coaching staff. I would be watching game tape of the New Orleans Saints and seeing all the ways they use Alvin Kamara. Now, it's unfair to say that Ty Chandler is Kamara. He's not. But he's that style of player. I would be trying to see what Sean Payton's doing to get Kamara the ball and try and mimic it here if I could. So I think that's a great response in terms of getting Chandler the ball.
Here is the problem, though, about the inconsistency. And somebody correct me, what does Tennessee do well on offense? Nothing. I mean, there's nothing that you do well.
But aside from that,
so if you could find that thing, and maybe it's using Ty Chandler more passive. If you can find one thing that you can do well, you can build some other stuff off of that. Right. You can use that to help you in other ways. But right now, the offense doesn't do anything well, and until you do, it's really just kind of throw something out there and see if it sticks.
It's a vicious circle, too, because if you try and find ways to get other people the ball, you're adding more plays to the playbook. Yeah. If you're not executing, you're not doing the right things on the simple plays. So it's what do? I think you cut it down to 3 or 4 basic run plays. I think you work in screens. You run your screens and quick out passes, because if you get that pass rush and you can negate that every once in a while, that slows those guys down. Mm-hmm. And then you're able to also, I'd put maybe Chandler in a wildcat formation or something, get him the ball and let him be dynamic so that, there is some speed, or it makes a defensive thing. But cut down, 3 or 4 plays is all you really need if you can execute on them well. Now, Tennessee doesn't have the horses to execute and be strong and create the holes, but that's probably your best bet.
Yeah, I'm going to go with some of the same answers here. And Ty Chandler is where I would start. And he had 9 touches against Georgia, which I don't think is enough, but that was also about 20% of their offense. So I would
they only had 40-something plays.
Yeah, exactly. So I would continue to try to up that. And then quick passes to Marquez Callaway and to Josh Palmer, some of your best athletes. Juwan Jennings will fight for yards. And it does sound simplified, and you're not talking about game-breaking plays, but what you're hoping is that they can break some plays and Jeremy Pruitt this past week was talking about Ty Chandler. There were some opportunities where he could have made some other guys miss, but he's still your best hope for that. So you're not going to hit a home run every time, but Ty Chandler and I think Callaway and Palmer, their speed gives you a chance to hit some home runs.
They've used the Wildcat earlier this year a couple of times. Jordan has been the guy that ran it. Looking at what Nick Fitzgerald did and what Mississippi State did, now again, they got a little bit better offensive line, and to make matters worse, Riley Locklear going to miss the next couple of games with meniscus surgery he had done. So he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. So your offensive line is going to be even thinner now. Do you, though, look at what Mississippi State did with Nick Fitzgerald running for 350 on Auburn? I hate the Wildcat. I think it's high schoolish and juvenile. But Is that something you throw at Auburn because you saw Mississippi State have some success with their running quarterback? Garantano isn't a tank the way that Fitzgerald is. Do you break out the Wildcat more against Auburn?
Well, here's the problem with that. You still got to be able to block it. I mean, just because you snap it to a back and let
I'm
him run
looking
around.
for alternatives here, but I get it. They can't block. I get it. I know.
Somebody was
I'm just trying to come up with something.
Somebody was commenting about, the backs aren't doing anything. Well, the offensive line is not helping me, but I have been impressed the way the backs hit the hole. Right, those guys do not shy. They hit the hole hard. There's nothing there for them to hit except run into people, but they have not backed down, and they've run into people knowing that they're going to get no gains or a 1 yard or hit at the line of scrimmage. So I throw it in, but again, you're right. We don't have a Fitzgerald, and we don't have the offensive line that
To block
Mississippi
it.
State does.
Well, and at least with Fitzgerald, there was the the thought that he could pull up and throw. I don't think that you're afraid of Tim Jordan doing that. So hey, let's throw Juwan Jennings back there. He was a quarterback in high school.
Well, let's have Tim Jordan throw it. They won't be expecting it. There you go.
Well, and Nick Fitzgerald isn't completing many. He wouldn't complete many more than Jordan, I don't think, the way he's playing.
Well,
this
that's
year.
one area I think Tennessee's offense differs a lot from what Mississippi State threw at Auburn. Nick Fitzgerald has no capability to really threaten you deep. I do think that when given one-on-one coverage, Jarrett Garantano and some of these wide receivers have shown the ability to connect on the deep ball. How that manifests itself against Auburn, I don't know, but I think that's maybe if we're searching for a strength, I think that could be one.
And the problem is, if you let Garantano, if you just put him in more of an option game, he's already beaten up.
Yes.
Now, you had an open day.
Yes.
Can you really afford to have him get killed?
And the same things we're saying about the offense hold true for the defense, too. I don't know how many people watched Florida and LSU yesterday. Florida was getting great pressure with 4 guys, which means they could do so many different things on defense.
Right.
It was just sort of fun. It was a magic show to watch. They're moving, they're doing all these different things.
This segment's-
You did it because you had 4 guys.
This
to get
segment's
the
supposed to depress people only on the offense.
Okay.
We did the
We'll save it for later.
Very good. I mean, it's people out there. A lot of them say, "Well, it's all Helton's fault." It's not.
It
It's
may
not
be in
all
3
Helton.
years.
Right, but right now it's hard to call plays when you got one arm behind your back, and the offensive line is massively important. So, how will that line look next year? We're going to take a look. Let's look ahead to 2019 at the roster and talk about the recovery timetable for Tennessee. That is next on the Sports Source. Come on back.